This is MJ. I love comics. That's not how I start these off. Darn it. Anyway. Guess that's what happens when you're running like 5 podcasts simultaneously while trying to write a children's book and have a full-time job and family and things like that. Anyway, as you've seen by the thumbnail if you're watching the video of this, my question is Prodigy's design petty sniping at Jim Shooter? So I've been watching whatever Comic Tropes for, I don't know, 6 months, 9 months, maybe a year. Chris over there is very informative, very entertaining. Anyway, he showed in his discussion about Jim Shooter and his career at Marvel, or his career overall, he showed this Valiant comic character that Jim Shooter came up with named Exo Man of War, which I personally think is a little bit of a ridiculous name, but you know, who am I? And as soon as I saw Exo Man of War, I don't know if that's his full name, on the screen, I thought, oh, wow, that's Prodigy. And then in the video, Chris was saying stuff about Jim Shooter having kind of burnt some bridges, had some tough relationships with people at Marvel, and some people had some bad things to say about him when he left, and like they burned him in effigy at a barbecue, and they burned a bunch of his this spin-off series of comics he wanted to do called, I think, The New Universe. Anyway, a bunch of people who were working at Marvel at the time like totally dissed the New Universe and were burning his comics and him in effigy at a barbecue. And then pretty soon after that, he got let go or fired from Marvel. And that was, I think it was in the 80s, but I don't remember. But anyway, he went on, maybe late 80s, because he went on to work for this company that eventually became Valiant Comics, if I'm remembering Chris's information correctly. And he created for them in 93, 94, a character named Exo Man of War, who has a yellow suit with a bunch of metal banding on it, kind of forms an X up on his torso out of the silver banding. And anyway, it reminded me of the Spider-Man Identity Crisis alternate persona for Peter Parker Spider-Man, who's called the Prodigy. And he was super strong, and he appeared to fly, but he didn't really, because it was just, Spider-Man using his ability to jump, 30 feet straight up in the air to make it look like he was flying. And anyway, the context behind Identity Crisis, it doesn't really matter. I'm not really wanting to go into that, but I'm just wondering, is it possible that the Prodigy character, or Prodigy's suit design, was made by people at Marvel who didn't like Jim Shooter and maybe wanted to mock or throw some shade at him for Exo Man of War? I don't know. The suit design looks so darn similar that it not makes me concerned, but it just really set alarm bells off in my head to think, hey, was that design stolen, cribbed, whatever, from this other character? And I haven't specifically looked at all the creatives who worked on it, but it just seemed like an interesting topic, something I wanted to discuss and kind of throw out there. If anybody who knows a lot more about comics, is like steeped in the history of comics way more than I am, knows, I'd love to hear. I'd love to know if there was an interview or something where somebody talks about the fact that this was done for that reason. I remember in the trade paperback I had of Identity Crisis, which I feel like it collected 8 or 10 issues. Maybe there were 2 of them and they collected like up to 12 issues. I don't know. Because it wasn't a very long storyline where he assumed these other identities. I think it was 2 issues in each book, and then it concluded somehow in one of them, I think. I don't remember now. It was like 20 years ago, I think, that I read these. 98, 2008, 2018. Yeah, it'd be like 20 years ago now or more. Anyway, if anybody has information on that, like there was bonus material that went over sketches of that the artists did as they were coming up with these characters, trying to figure out exactly what the looks of these characters would be. I don't have access to that anymore. I have Marvel Unlimited app, but they only show you the stuff in the issues, and I guess that background information that I remember was not included in the actual... I kind of think it was exclusive to the trade paperbacks, which is unfortunate. One thing I always remember is that the artists, when they were doing a sketch of Ricochet, it said something about like a sexy butt shot for the ladies, and I don't know why, but that's always stuck in my mind for 2 decades. But yeah, like I said, if you have information on this, if you got that trade paperback of not Slingers, that's the spin-off thing, of the Identity Crisis, and you wouldn't mind sharing, I'd love it if you could comment that or point me to a resource, or if you know of some other method of looking at trade paperbacks that I don't have in my hands, I wouldn't mind doing that for reference material. So you can point that my way. You can comment here on YouTube, you can comment on my blog, mjmunoz.com, or you can comment on Twitter, because I have that as well. So aside from comic books, I'm a big fan of Japanese live action shows called tokusatsu, as well as Star Wars, and I like manga a lot, which is comics, Japanese comics. Anyway, I have several other podcasts. I have Swinging Through Comics, King of Hearts, Queen of Sorrows, another writer cast, MJ Loves Star Wars, Going Ultra, and then this podcast or video series, whatever. Marvel Comics is getting is getting Ultraman. I think the comic is called The Rise of Ultraman. Anyway, Ultraman is a very old tokusatsu character, like younger than Godzilla, but older than Kamen Rider and Super Sentai, which became Power Rangers. But I'm really into this stuff, and I have a separate thing called, MJ Loves Toku. There's a YouTube channel, there's a podcast, and since Ultraman is here in the United States now soon, I'm going to be covering that here and exposing you to it if you don't know it already. And if you like the Ultraman comic, you might also want to, as I buy it and review it, and if I like it, it might get you interested in tokusatsu, and you can check out some of my other work with tokusatsu that I'll have linked all on my website under the podcast tab, because I have so many I have like 5 or 6 podcasts that I do. So yeah, you can get exposed to more of that stuff. And on my Redbubble store that I will mention soon, I have tokusatsu inspired merch, which is Ultraman and Kamen Rider and stuff like that, and then also comics merch, which I will make more of. Anyway, that's it. I have a spiel for you to say goodbye. Thanks for sticking with me. Check out mjmunoz.com for more of my work. I'm an aspiring author who will gladly accept your financial support through coffee, or you can buy merch from my Redbubble store. Swinging Through Comics can be found on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and mjmunoz.com/STC. Relevant links are in the show notes. If you had a good time, like and share this, subscribing the bell to catch me next time. I'm Swinging Through Comics.